To the cloud. Okay. So if we had some happy dollars, I would give some happy dollars to Bob because he is pinch hitting for Greg Owen, who had a procedure and is not up to par right now. So Bob is coming in at the last minute. Bob is the End Polio Now zone coordinator. We're in zone 2627. He is a coordinator. He joined Rotary in 2007 in California. He is a polio survivor and joined the district's, that's District 5130's Polio Plus Committee. And he's given many talks around the district. In his first year, he was Rookie Rotarian of the Year and then Rotarian of the Year many years later. But he served as president, assistant governor, and district governor 2017-18. And while he was district governor, he and 13 writers created this 6-day, 350-mile bike ride, paddle for polio, raised 140,000, and Rotary clubs all along the routes brought food and beds, and they had cultivated friendships throughout the district. So Bob has attended 7 international and 1 virtual convention. That was ours, our virtual convention in Hawaii. His travels have taken him multiple places in Mexico, Uganda for a global project, India, and he did an NID, a National Immunization Day in New Delhi, India in January 2020, before the pandemic. So in 2021-22, he is serving as the chair of the District 5130's Polio Plus Committee and as the End Polio Now Zone Coordinator for Zone 26. He's a member of the Paul Harris Society, Polio Plus Society, and with his wife Peggy are major donors and members of the Bequest Society. Bob is a retired airline pilot for US Airways, and he claims that his second career is Rotary. So here, Bob, you may have the spotlight and the screen share.
Naomi, thank you. I don't know where you got that bio because I forgot to send you one. and thank you folks for inviting me to give you an update on polio. But before I do that, I want to show you a video of a National Immunization Day that I participated in January of last year. It was in New Delhi. You know, we as Rotarians, we see the advocate and fundraising side of this battle, just like we're doing today. But rarely do we get a chance to see the frontline workers side. And I think this video will give you a glimpse into that. This trip that I was on was organized by our own past international director, Brad Howard. He's conducted close to 40 of these trips for Rotarians. So here we go. Let's see if everything works. Uh-oh, I think maybe I forgot to click the sound. Sorry about that. Are you guys hearing anything?
No, we can't hear it right now, Bob.
Okay, I don't know why, but let me start from scratch again. I apologize for this.
No problem, Bob.
It worked when we just tested it, didn't it?
Yeah, no, that's how technology works, right? It's just like it works and then it doesn't. So
Okay, yeah. Okay, so share screen. Click on the correct one, hopefully. Okay, I think I just figured out what it might be. built-in microphone and built-in internal speakers, built-in output. You know, after all the times I've done this, I thought that I had all of the kinks worked out.
There it is, Bob.
Okay, good.
There you go. Sorry. Thank you.
My name is Brad Howard. I professionally am both a tour operator. We take people overseas for purpose, professional groups and associations, and I also have commercial real estate here in the East Bay. In Rotary, I have been involved with it for about 35 years and have been a governor, which is a regional responsibility, and then been a member of the board of directors of Rotary International, the international board. So polio was a disease that was a huge issue in the early 1950s. Towards the end of the 1950s, early 1960s, they found a vaccine. Well, about that time, Rotary, by accident, decided that it was a very localized effort in the Philippines, that they could, if they had enough money, could buy enough vaccines to immunize all their kids. Well, they did it. And so Rotary as an organization said, wow, if all we need to do is get vaccines to kids, we could do that. And so since that time, we have been knocking off all these countries. 125 countries had polio when we started. Right now it's down to 2, Pakistan and Afghanistan. But because Pakistan and Afghanistan have very limited healthcare systems and border controls, it isn't limited to those countries. People are traveling across borders between those 2 countries, and Pakistan's a neighbor with India. When we immunize a child during these national immunization days, we are trying to immunize every single child in that country that are 5 years and younger. And this is what we did on this recent trip. Over a 5-day period, they're trying to immunize more than 100 million children.
Okay, who's next? Oh, no. Are you laughing at me? Are you laughing at me?
That's Cliff Docterman's sister.
हाथ मिला रहा
Whenever you walk through these villages, there's a whole pack of kids that are following you. And some of them are in areas that basically they're dumps. I mean, literally are a dump. You're watching kids play with bicycle wheels that are broken. The thing that always strikes me is how happy they are. And it's those smiles and it's those interactions with those people, the people in need, that really, I think, drive emotion for a lot of people when they're in this environment, to say, I got to help them do something. And I think that's where Rotary's job becomes most important.
fresh, fresh.
The community in which we were in was called Mewat. And Mewat is a largely Muslim populated place, but very impoverished. In fact, the largest industry, if you will, is making fuel for fires so that they can cook and heat their house. And that fuel is quite literally made out of cow patties.
This is the kitchen.
This is the kitchen?
I was just told that. Yeah, that's where they build the fire, they cook over the fire, and this is the kitchen right here. The man just told me, the driver just told me.
There's what's called the caste system, and so there's this whole spectrum of haves and have-nots. There are those that are called the untouchables, and in society they really don't have a place. One of the parts of the polio eradication effort is one day you go from door to door looking for kids in each house to know that everyone's been immunized.
ये चले जाएंगे
स्कूल गए बता छोड़ भाई अरे छोटे छोटे से स्कूल भगा दिए क्या तो सो रहा है लेना आ फिर ले
बेबी नाउ
ये बेबी
here we go
किधर हम बस
Shoot, I missed it.
I really didn't know what to expect coming to India. My wife and I, are both Rotarians, and we came knowing that we were coming for a good cause. And we have definitely fulfilled our mission in that, and seeing lives changed, putting 2 drops of polio vaccination into a small child's mouth, knowing that that child will not suffer the consequences of a debilitating, deathly sickness called polio.
When I first did this trip, or contemplated doing it, I thought to myself, you know, is this really just a self-satisfying thing about going over here? Wouldn't that money that I spent on this coming over here be better spent if I were to donate it to the Polio Plus campaign? And the Rotarians here put it another way. They said that our coming here is inspiring to them, that we would do that.
But the real difference is, why are we here on Earth? What is our legacy? And watching people take these trips, I think, helps to define that. You can't help but feel, for just random luck, I was born there and got all this good stuff, or that I could have been born here and been needing other people's help. And when you have a chance to see it and believe that you can do something about it, it makes a huge difference. So what's the future of polio? It'll be gone. What will happen next? Well, that's up to the Rotarians, and it will be up to them to decide where their passion is, where their future is, and how they can, through the effort of making friends with others, create lasting change across the globe, in their community, and in themselves.
You know, I can't tell you how many times I've watched this video, and I have to admit, I still get a little emotional each time reliving that experience. So as Brad mentioned in the video, I can get this to. When we first started this, there were, in 1988, there were 350,000 children a year. That's almost 1,000 per day contracting polio in 125 countries. And now here we are, as this shows, down to 2 countries, Afghanistan and Pakistan. Quite an accomplishment. As you probably know, there were 3 types of the wild polio virus, type 1, type 2, and type 3. And I say were because type 2 was declared eradicated in 2015, type 3 declared eradicated in 2019, and that leaves us with only type 1 still out there in the environment. This next chart shows the number of wild polio cases since 2013. And you could see the great progress we made up until 2019, when we jumped from 33 cases up to 176 cases. And last year finished up with a few less, 140 cases. Last year at this date, October 6th, we had 121 cases. Today, drum roll, we have 2 wild polio cases, only 2. We have never been in such a unique position before. This is phenomenal. But clearly there was a huge concern, wasn't there, about that increase up to 140. And how did that happen? You know, well, some of that increase is due to conflict, not being able to have lack of access to areas because of conflict. And although the governments of Pakistan and Afghanistan were supporting us, backing us, there are still political and religious factions out there who think that Westerners were trying to sterilize their children with these drops. And in April of 2019, in Pakistan, a fake video appeared on social media, and it claimed that children were being vaccinated with expired vaccines and showed children writhing in pain as a result of that. Then all of a sudden, one of the children stops writhing, sits up, looks at the camera, smiles and waves. Clearly staged, but nevertheless, the video did its job. And the narrative urging parents to take their children to local hospitals and clinics, mass chaos ensued. And as a result, they were overwhelmed and the whole NID had to be suspended for a period of time. They even burned down a health clinic that day. And a month before that, 2 polio workers and 2 security guards guarding those polio workers were killed while doing their work in Pakistan. The end result of this was a temporary suspension of all vaccination efforts, and an estimated 2 million children did not get vaccinated during that NID. In addition, the Taliban in Afghanistan forbid any house-to-house vaccinations taking place in areas that they controlled because they feared the vaccinators might be passing on information to US forces for drone strikes on Taliban leaders. This chart might give you a little bit better idea. That's a month-by-month chart of the number of cases, and my mouse, my arrow is right on April. That is the month that fake video happened. And you can see an increase in the number of cases. And because people weren't getting vaccinated, people weren't bringing their children to get vaccinated because of that video, we're speculating. And then you can see how it drops off in 2020 till eventually we're down to nothing. Now, this is just supposition on my part, but I think what happened is, you know how the news cycles we have here in the US, something makes big headlines and even affects outcomes, whether it's COVID-19 or fake political news or whatever. Then as another story takes command of the news cycle, people tend to forget the old one and concentrate on the new one. And I'm guessing that may be what happened here. As time went on, people forgot about that video and started having their children vaccinated again. And now there's no scientific study for that. That's just my gut feeling. And as 2020 progressed, you can see, as I started to say, how it tapered off to 0 in the month of December. And I think another cause of this reduction could be also due to less traveling during the pandemic. Again, not anything I can prove, but you get the picture. You may have noticed that I've referred to the polio virus as the wild polio virus. While we can celebrate the lack of new cases of wild polio, we have to remember that we still have another battlefront to contend with before we can declare the job done. The circulating vaccine-derived polio type 2, referred to as CVDP2. Now, in rare instances, the original Sabin oral vaccine, the one that we're using, uses a live attenuated virus, a weakened virus. And in rare instances, that can mutate back to full strength in the environment. Statistically speaking, about 1 in every 2.3 million doses. And when that happens, especially in underimmunized community, especially an underimmunized community that's downstream from a well-immunized community, it can cause paralysis in a child because they become contaminated from sewage or fecal matter in the water. But now for some good news. There's a new novel oral polio vaccine referred to as NOPV2. It completed its stage 3 clinical trials last November and got its emergency use listing on the 13th of November. You know how we got the emergency use listing for COVID vaccines? Same thing. This vaccine also, like the Sabin vaccine, uses a live attenuated virus, but it's engineered to be more stable, less likely to mutate back to full strength. This means that this can help us address the CVDP2 outbreaks more sustainably. This, in my humble opinion, is a game changer, folks. Right now, we have 7 countries in Central Africa where most of these outbreaks are located, and they are already been approved and are using it. Benin, Congo, Liberia, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, and Tajikistan. They have delivered over 70 million doses to date with no after effects. And 33 of the remaining 40 countries that are high risk are currently in the qualification pipeline to also start using this new vaccine. The principal advocate and provider of 100% of the funds for this project was the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Currently, as of yesterday, there are 326 cases of the circulating vaccine-derived polio. Last year at this time, there was 422. So 326 to 422. So we're making progress against this version of the virus. And the increasing rollout into new countries, I'm sure, is going to certainly help in containing this disease. And now for a quick refresher, GPEI, the Global Polio Eradication Initiative. GPEI it was formed by Rotary and the World Health Organization back in 1988. And it's the controlling agency behind this fight against polio. Now, we brought in 4 other organizations, CDC, Center for Disease Control, UNICEF, or United Nations Children's Fund, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation joined us in 2007. And then last year, Gavi, which is a global alliance for vaccines and immunization, also joined GPEI. Okay, now for some more exciting news. GPEI recently rolled out their new endgame strategy for 2022 to 2026. Now, development of this strategy began last July, July of last year. And in addition to the 6 GPEI partners, they had 71 other working groups with them, organizations with epidemiological, technical, managerial, and operational expertise, as well as the national governments of the affected countries. This external engagement is the most extensive to date of any GPEI strategy and was completed just this last March. And they recently published the executive summary of the strategy. Basically, the strategy has 2 goals. Number 1 is to permanently interrupt all poliovirus transmission in endemic countries, which in this case means Pakistan and Afghanistan, and includes not only the wild poliovirus, but the circulating vaccine-derived polioviruses as well, because they do have that in those 2 countries. Goal 2 is to stop the circulating vaccine-derived polio and prevent outbreaks in non-endemic countries. That includes All 21 countries, mostly in Central Africa, that have had cases this year are positive environmental samples. And there's 19 countries also that didn't have any this year, but they did have some last year. They're going to be in that group using the new novel polio virus vaccine, excuse me. The report also includes a timeline showing the strategies that the two goals I just outlined. As you can see up here, they're saying in 2023, they hope to interrupt WPV1, which is the wild polio transmission, and 3 years later declare it gone. Now, they've built in some time in that because we're already 8 months into 8 months without a case. I'm very optimistic, and I'll tell you why in a few seconds. And then also on the bottom, the goal 2 is the vaccine-derived polio. And they also hope to stop isolates of that in 2023 at the same time, and then 3 years later, declare it gone. So this report is in much more detail than what we have here. And if you want to get a copy of that, you can go to polioeradication.org. Polioeradication.org, that's GPEI's website. And if you hover your mouse over who we are in the upper left, it will highlight GPEI strategy 2022 to 2026. So hunker down next to your air conditioner with a cool beverage some evening and pore over this document. You know, some folks have asked after 35 years, why should we continue to support Polio Plus? Isn't 99.9% good enough? Can't we go after another disease, a parasite? Well, I have an answer for them. No, because we haven't finished the job yet. Yeah, it's true that this has taken us much longer than anyone ever anticipated. You know, our Rotary International President-elect, Jennifer Jones, she said a couple of years ago, if we knew it was going to take us this long, we probably wouldn't have started the project in the first place. But we did. And if we quit now, all of that work will be for naught. To have come this far and created this unique opportunity to eliminate this disease from the face of the earth and then quit and let polio reinfect the world, I don't even want to think about it. That's just not an option. You know, we've already saved an estimated 19 million children from paralysis, an estimated 1.5 million from death. We've already made a huge difference, and we have to continue this fight. We are so close to winning. You know, the problem is not science. We've already proven that it can be done. The problem is political and social, and that can be overcome with perseverance and tenacity. And believe me, Rotarians have plenty of both, don't we? And let me give you an example. Just before the fall of the Afghan regime last month, through the magic of Rotary, we had been negotiating with the Taliban to allow vaccinations to take place in mosques. They didn't want to do it house to house because they were concerned about security, but they just approved us to do vaccinations in the mosques. And also, there's probably more, but I have a report definitely of at least one immunization day that took place with the Taliban acting as the security guards for the vaccination teams. So one other thing is the positive environmental samples that they take samples. We have 146 labs throughout the world, and we take sewage samples and have them tested. Pakistan had 62 positive environmental samples. Afghanistan, 1. There's only 1 positive environmental. I know everybody's concerned about Afghanistan, but they've been testing and it just isn't there. So I am really excited about the possibility of Afghanistan going the full distance on this. And I think the Taliban are going to work with this because they are concerned about their children just as much as we are. And we have to continue this because we are all painfully aware that polio is only a plane ride away. Any virus is only a plane ride away, whether it's measles like a couple of years ago, or COVID like we're experiencing now, or God forbid, polio in the future. You know, as long as one child has a polio virus children everywhere in the world are in danger of contracting it. And it's been estimated that if we quit now, if we quit vaccinating now, in 10 years, there'll be 200,000 new cases. And of course, the financial costs will be astronomical. And speaking of costs, fighting polio is not cheap. Last year's budget was $961 million, almost $1 billion to vaccinate 400 million children. We have to keep vaccinating the newborns every year. And this has to go on for another 5 years, according to that strategy that we just talked about. Okay, and towards that end, as you all know, each year Rotarians are asked to raise $50 million to take advantage of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation 2-to-1 match. And we've been able to meet it every year so far, just squeaking in on June 30th with that final push, and we've made it. But what that means, it's so important, they will give us $100 million on top of our 50 million, makes it 150 million. That's a big chunk of that 961 million budget. So we can complete that promise we made to the children of the world over 30 years ago, a world free of the polio virus. So towards that effort, last year, the 30 districts in zone 26 and 27, of which you guys are one, adopted a program called the Polio Plus Society. It asked Rotarians to make a commitment to donate a minimum of $100 per year. I'm sure most of you are aware of it because Rich Corson was really pushing it last year, I believe. And you will get the 2-for-1 with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. You will get your Paul Harris recognition points, or for your Paul Harris Fellow, or your plus pins. As a matter of fact, I didn't have time to do it. I was going to send everybody in this club, and maybe President Maddie, if I could ask you, if I send you the forms, would you send these to everybody in your club in an email?
Absolutely, yeah, for sure.
Okay, great. Because this is such a great way to give $100 a year. That's $10 a month if you put it on a credit card, recurring on myrotary.org. For a cup of brew from your favorite barista each week, you can be a member of the society. And not only will you get that pin that's depicted in the picture here, you'll get a wristband like I'm wearing, the End Polio Now wristband. I'm wearing that till we're done. And you get a certificate proclaiming you a member of the Polio Plus Society. So, you know, a lot of our work is focused on our youth and the following generations, isn't it, as Rotarians? On the future inhabitants of our planet. I can't think of any other work that we do for the next generations that is more important than our work in eliminating polio from the face of the earth. So I want to thank you for this opportunity to update you on our fight. I hope I've convinced you the importance of our continuing role, and join the Polio Plus Society. Thank you so much. And I'm here for questions if we have time.
We get a nice big round of applause for Bob. He's a star. He was on